Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to a link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.
In the world we're going to outdo this last show? And somehow you come up with, the idea of the next person that rolls in here. And man, I mean, in the next coming weeks, we got people that got to hold up their bargain, man. I mean, these dudes are holding up the weight. They raising the bar every time. But, I always say the National Alliance of African American Athletes is the organization that uses the Watkins Award to recognize the top African American high school scholar athletes. Those athletes are making a tremendous impact in their communities. And before again, I go into what it is that we go into every year. Well, I say every year, but every show, I got to talk about views and opinions. I mean, I got to do a disclaimer. I always have to do that, that the views and opinions of the host and the co host, that's
That's me.
myself and Mr. Pearsall, they are our views and opinion, not those of BBS Radio or any of our sponsors or anyone. It's just our views and our opinions. And certainly don't hold them liable. You call Mr. Pearsall up and rake him across the coals on the phone because he's talking all this stuff that is unbelievable. How can a African American be a scholar athlete and be a 5-star? Never heard of that before. You got to prove that to me. You got to prove it. How can in the world they graduate? Most of these African Americans, they don't graduate from college. They don't get a degree. That's what they've been hearing. But I'm here to tell you, we got joy on this land. We can talk about, but before I even get started, again, I always try to give, I try to give credit where credit is due because we have people who help us not only with the radio show, but they help us with the Watkins Award, which is an annual event. And I would encourage you to go by the website, go by www.naa.com. That's 4 A's. People put 3 A's in there and they say, well, I couldn't get to it. I put 2 A's in there. That's NAAA.com. Go by the website. And also, I don't say it a lot, but hey, we can always use donations. This is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we go off of donations. And so we would appreciate you going by the website and doing that. But some of the sponsors that help us out, and I'll be trying to get them in during the course of the day, is JMA Solutions. And you can go by their website at jmasolutions.com. They have offices in DC, East Harbor Township, New Jersey, and also Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And they are hiring. So you can go by their website, check them out. Also, check out exoticcarsharing.com. That's the one that Pearsall uses whenever he goes out of town. He needs an exotic car. But just look at him. He loves driving those muscle cars, Lamborghinis, Porsches, Benzes, Maserati. I mean, look at him. He looks like he would look good in a Testarossa. Just look at it. But at any rate, they have offices in Palestine, Illinois, and Atlanta, Georgia. You can, go by their website. And then you have also who help us out, War Law Office. They have an office in downtown Noonan, Georgia, and you can get in touch with them by, giving them a phone call at 770-251-1214. 1289. Now, I know I'm going real fast, but this also is a recorded show, so you can go back and come back to the website, bbsradio.com, and you can hear us again over and over and over. So it's a podcast, and then you can go to the major podcast platforms as well to get some information. And then we also have Roscoe Jenkins Funeral Home, which is also located in Noonan, Georgia. Now we represent athletes all over the country. So you might hear some cities you've never heard before. You say, how in the world? But they are helping us out. So, Roscoe Jenkins Funeral Home, located at 182 Millard Farmer Industrial Boulevard in Noonan. Also, and their telephone number, you can call them at 770-253-1232. And last but not least, I know Mr. Pearsall gonna like this. He gonna like this. We also have JC Lofton's Professional Alterations and Custom Tailoring. All
I
of
mean,
Mr. All of Mr. Pearsall suits, they custom their shirts. I mean, you look at his shirt, that's a custom tailored shirt. I don't care what you say, he gets his shirts tailored. And Mr. Lofton, he's located in Washington, D.C. on that famous street, U Street, 1003 U Street, Northwest in Washington, D.C. And you can, go by J.C. Lofton's and he'll tailor you some suits. Now, ironically, um, his cousin, first cousin, Kurt, I call him Kurt Bone. Kurt Bone Lofton also does tailoring down here in Georgia, and he's over in Conyers, Georgia. So, we'll talk a little bit more about everybody later on in the show. But, today is going to be a phenomenal show. And I want to ask you a question, Mr. Pearsall. Have, all of us have been, but can you recall a time in your life that um, adversity, I want to use the word adversity, that you were faced with a time that you really had to dig deep and that athlete in you had to come out. Could have been at work, could have been a situation at the job or something. And something caused you to really dig deep and think about some of those old coaches that say, you better not quit, you better not. And then you had your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. You had people in your family that looked upon you and you say, one of the things I can't do, I can't quit. Do you recall any time in your life? I mean, I remember times when I wanted to quit jobs, just wanted to get out the job. Man, I can't take this. I'm leaving this job. But I would not quit. Now, I'm not gonna say I didn't resign, but it wasn't that I quit because somebody was just so mean to me, so hard. I just persevered. So, do you remember a time in your life when you had to really do something like that? There's
absolutely. There are many, many times that sport has actually prepared me for life. It's one of the reasons I've been able to, I say accomplish, but to do most of what I've been able to do in life is because of sport. But I'll go back and obviously you try to think chronologically about times that you reached adversity or had to overcome adversity. One of the very reasons I'm so passionate about the Watkins Award and the National Alliance of African American Athletes is because I was raised by a single mom and a single parent home. And at the age of 14, essentially, and I've told this story to a number of folks, I essentially, was smart enough to get straight A's, which bore fruit later and was evidenced later. But I went through most of my early years in education getting an A in math because I just loved math, and getting an A in gym because I was athletic, and essentially getting a D in everything else. But without going into the depth of the story, I reached a point in the ninth grade where I was about to get expelled from school, and they actually made a decision to throw me out. And my parents came in, my mom came into the school, I should say, and we had a one-on-one meeting with the principal, and my mom just wasn't having it. She wasn't going for the fact that I deserved to be kicked out, and she made the case and pled the case that I should be given another opportunity. But on the ride home, she challenged me to dedicate myself the same way that I dedicated myself to the game of football and at that time baseball, to making sure that I didn't embarrass myself or my family or her again for accolades in the classroom. And I had to reflect back on what I represented on the field and try to apply myself in the same way in the classroom. And I'll tell you that, recognizing that, it wasn't the level of intellect that I had. It was the fact that I just didn't care about those other classes until that very moment. And at that very moment, moving forward, I got all A's and one B for the rest of my high school career. But again, that was a turning point. That was a time that I had to take a look at what I represented and how embarrassed I was to see my mother sitting in front of, the school board and the principal fighting for my educational life because of the way that I conducted myself, and more importantly, the way that I was viewed, sort of being a derelict of the school and not doing anything malicious, but just not being about the educational business that she pushed me to be about. And I'm talking about a mother who didn't graduate from high school, but wanted to make sure that her son, went to college, graduated from college, and was able to take advantage of things that education would afford me to be able to take advantage of. And so, again, I'll reflect that back on sports because she challenged me and obviously told me that if I didn't get things together in the classroom, certainly the football would be over for me. And that adversity put me in the right frame of mind. I attacked the books and graduated, with honors and straight A's for the rest of my high school career. And so I'd say that because there are a lot of kids out there that are extremely intelligent. And so when given the right drive or given the right example, given the right push or the level of empowerment, they too can now realize that there's opportunities out there that they'll be able to take advantage of if they just apply themselves. The intellect is there. All they have to do is apply themselves and focus on the things that they want to have at the end of the rainbow.
Boy, that's a awesome story. I mean, I know that everybody has their story, and there's no doubt that there's been enough people that have had stations with that have traveled that same road. And certainly, I appreciate that because it reminded me of some things that went on in my life. Being raised by a single parent, but no doubt, just realizing a lot of those experiences through a lot of these young men who come through the Watkins Award. And again, I want to overemphasize the fact that the Watkins Award is an award that recognizes the top African American scholar athlete. No one person. It recognizes athletes. And not to use any fancy words or anything, we just let one of them just watch over the award. If it's five or six of them, one of them has the responsibility to look over the award for the rest of their peers. And what makes this Watkins Award so special is that these young men all realize that they all are winners in this event that is the National Alliance of African American Athletes, in which we put on, which is the Watkins Award. And now all of a sudden, you got all these young men here, and each one of them go through their own level of adversity. But going back to what you talked about early in one of our earlier shows with Mr. Franklin D. Watkins coming up with this um, this this organization to help use peer pressure in a positive way and make being smart hip. Because I remember when I was a young man, being smart wasn't hip. As a matter of fact, it could be unhealthy. You be in the classroom and you act like you smarter than the rest of the kids. Then all of a sudden you found yourself in a situation. And those were the things that I had to deal with. I mean, I played so many sports. Guys didn't realize that I was playing these sports, all these different uh, types of sports when I was coming through elementary, middle school, and high school. That by the time I did get to become a senior and not find myself in any trouble, never going to jail. I mean, my mother never had to do any of those things. Now, I'm not saying that I'm better than any of the other kids who had to find themselves in reform school or in jail. But what I'm saying is, I use sports as a way out. And everybody else was going somewhere. I found a way to say, well, you know what? I got to go to practice. Well, coach so and so, he wants me to be somewhere. And those guys believed it. And it wasn't, like I was telling the fib, but I saw that being the easiest way to get out of trouble. And adversity, oh man, I mean, just playing all the sports and not being the biggest guy on any of the teams. I always found myself playing with older guys, playing catcher in baseball, and having a guy who could probably throw at least a 70-mile an hour fastball by the time he was in the sixth grade. I mean, incredible athlete who could have been All American in football, baseball, and basketball. But to go to football practice, a whole nother story and some of the things that we saw. But this guy was a great athlete. And I am so thankful for the opportunity to play with all of these All Americans who I didn't realize that they were challenging me to be a better player. But with all that said, Mr. Pearsall, I brought our guest in early today, and we getting ready to hit a break in a few seconds. I know that break is going to come up, but before we hit that break, um, I just want to say that I met a lot of the guys, met a lot of them, just like you, and you communicate with all of them, but you can't become uh, what you really want to become to all of them. I mean, that's a lot of work that you put in, going from school to school, state to state, city to city. I don't think sometimes people appreciate the work that you do. But I do recall an incident that we'll come back to later that you and I was minding our business. You get a phone call, you call me up, before I know it, you in Atlanta. And then you and I jump in a car and we traveling northbound on 85. Now, I'm gonna bring that story up, but the young man that we're gonna have after the commercial is Richard Jurgen. And Richard is one special athlete, being one of the top, one of the top defensemen in the country. I mean, he graduates with a 4.2, and Richard essentially could have gone anywhere he wanted to because of his athletic skills. But more importantly, he could have dropped football and just went as a student on an academic scholarship. I mean, all of these guys are special. All of them have the secret sauce. But this Richard Jurgen got a DNA that is unbelievable. So I'm gonna, get more into detail on the backside of this commercial. I'm, hopeful that Doug is hearing me and he's gonna run that commercial, give us some music, get us out of here for a second, and then we'll get out. But Doug may be, I don't know. Did he fall asleep on us, Pearsall?
He might have. He might have. There we go.
There we go. There we go. We'll get back to Richard Jurgen on the backside. Thank you so much. You're here with Pearsall and Tate on the Watkins Award.
Write down every single thought. I goes on my wall, I win, I never fall. I've been gone for a minute, yeah, I had to be free. You want it, I got it, so tell me what you need. I'm unchanged, unfazed, and unwilling. It's a new day, new world, we all winning. I'm up late, up early, I gotta get it. Keep working, now we gotta make a million. Go get it, you gotta see it. 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 I know you can do it. All you gotta do is put your mind to it.
Exotic Car Sharing by Kirby Road is a full-service car sharing company that has been in business for over 21 years. Based out of Palatine, Illinois, our company allows its members the ability to own fractional ownership of exotic cars at a fraction of the costs. Our share plans include reservations for weekend or weekly ride sharing. Our members get to choose from a Bentley one weekend to the McLaren 570S the next. No long paperwork, expensive maintenance, or expensive insurance requirements. Exotic Car Sharing has the fleet and capabilities to service all of our clients with quality luxury vehicles delivered at your doorstep. Register on our website at exoticcarsharing.com or call us at 888-264-3327.
Got that commercial in this time, man. That's what I want.
Exotic cars, baby. Gotta love
Exotic cars. You know what, Pearsall? I know your foot was moving while that commercial was on because you know how you like to jump in that.
butterfly doors, baby. It's time to go.
Oh my goodness. What's that what's that one car that got them doors that flap up on the side that's about $300,000 you like driving? Oh,
I don't know. I think it's the Lamborghini. I'm not sure. I'm not. I just know how to get into them and drive them. I can't call them out when I see them, but I can drive them for sure.
That's the Bugatti. Well, I tell you, you talk about a expensive sports car and pristine and how they work. Let's look at Richard Jurgen, man. I mean, he he's a 2014 guy with the Watkins Award. He comes through, humble, man. I mean, all of these guys are humble, but Jurgen is humble and he comes through, and we're going to get into why he did this, but he goes down to Clemson, and Clemson is no joke. I mean, they stacked up down there. So if you're a football player in particular, your game better be your game better be on. But he not only goes down there and wins a national championship, but within 3 years, 3 years, Jurgen graduates. He gets his degree in business administration. Then he ends up getting a master's degree down there at Clemson. And then he leaves Clemson, he goes to use that extra year and he goes to Boston University and gets another master's. So by the time he finishes his athletic career, he doesn't have just a bachelor's and a master's. He got a bachelor's and two masters. He get a master's in healthcare policy. But in the meantime, if you just want to know, he picks up the Brian Piccolo Award. He probably didn't think I was doing my homework, but I was going to find out about that Brian Piccolo Award. So with all that said, good evening, Mr. Richard Jurgen. How you doing today?
Tell you what, I'm doing great now that I'm talking to you.
Man, well, Pearsall and I, man, we've been licking our choppers. I mean, licking our choppers, waiting for you to get on this show, man. And certainly you got some things the listeners want to know about. And I'm gonna jump right in because we brought you in a little early because we realized there were some things that we really wanted to flush out with you. So
Tell me.
I want to ask this first question. What type of family did you grow up in? And football was an outlet for you to get away. I mean, and you was using academics, but what kind of family was motivating you to do what you accomplished in high school?
It's a good question. I had a traditional family, a mother, a father, but I had an older brother who was 11 and a half years older than me. And my parents had me when they were 40. So I was a late baby. And in being that, I've always had to act a little bit older than I was. And that came from, you got parents who have been through life, have already had a child. They've already, gotten well off into their careers, and here comes yet another child. And so, I was always taught that family, education, and then athletics. And so in that order, I've always made sure that my life has been a direct reflection of that.
Man, that's powerful. So when you was in high school and you saw that you were a premier athlete, because becoming a 5-star doesn't happen overnight. That's
Right.
progression. That's something people see you early on and see your potential. What was going through your mind as you in high school and realizing that you had to step your game up? I mean, you really had to step your game up if you were going to be one of the top in the country, not just out of Florida, but in the country.
Yeah, growing up here in South Florida, athletics, football in particular, is king. And from the time that you step foot onto a football field, it's about business. Meaning, every youth sports team I've ever played on, the competition level has always been better than the opposition. I knew that if I could compete for a starting position or for notoriety on the team that I was playing for, I would be all right. Because everybody else and everything else that we're up against didn't matter. It was all about, can you beat out the next man for your position. And once I came to that realization, it was no longer about the next man. It became about me. Can I beat out yesterday? Can I be better than I was last year? You know, all those questions and thoughts start to become less complex and more simple. And it takes putting the work in every day and being willing to go out there and test your will against another man's will on the football field and in life. So that's
Man,
what I did.
you know, when we were in LA for the Watkins Award, I noticed that you were more focused on a particular set of words that started to define you before you even hit the college campus. And those set of words was business trip. So what made you decide that you was going to take your business trip from South Florida to Clemson University? What was the process that you got to that you was going to Clemson because you were serious about your academics? And I'm not saying that Clemson is not a serious school academically, but well, how did you end up in at Clemson?
Tell you what, Clemson was the first school to offer me as a sophomore in high school, unproven linebacker, and they saw the potential in me from day one. And moving forward in the recruitment process, things, obviously get disheveled. You have so many different factors to weigh into your decision making at that age. But one thing that sticks out to me is loyalty. And Clemson's loyalty never wavered towards whether or not I was a fit there or whether I would be able to excel there, because they provide a numerous amount of resources. And I knew that, prior to going into um, making that decision, that Clemson was a place where I could grow as not only an athlete, but as a male, a black male at that, and define who I was in a Southern school that has their own principles and values. Academically, it ranks amongst the top 20 public academic institutions, which means opportunities for business and networking. And then, pretty good football team, opportunity to go to NFL. So I would say it's a no-brainer. And I made the best decision for me at the time, and still to this day.
Well, I was leading up to something on the other side of that commercial break, and you know, Pearsall and I briefly talked about adversity,
Right.
and so I remember a day, and that Pearsall called me up and said to me he was on his way. Now I had just spoken to him maybe I would too. And this is the type of work that this man puts in. And this is why I work as hard as I do. But he said, I'm on my way. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, I'm on my way to Atlanta. And he got to Atlanta and he and I jumped in the car and we were headed to Clemson. So I want to ask you, here you are at Clemson. You had you you, you this premier athlete, and I should always use the word scholar athlete, but you find yourself in a car accident. Someone says to you, you'll never walk again. I mean, what is going through your mind? Because Pearsall comes, down here with a look on his face, and we jump in a car. I just knew we was going to get a ticket. We flew straight to the hospital, straight to the hospital. Get to the
You did.
hospital. and all the coaches, some of your best teammates are surrounding, and people looking at you, and we talking to people and say, "Hey, he'll never walk again. He'll never walk again." I mean, what's going through your mind when you open your eyes, when you see Pearsall and I coming through that door? You talk about adversity. Taking were you listening to these people tell you, "Hey, you can't play football no more. You're not going to be able to walk"? What's going through your mind?
You see the light above my head? It's nighttime and the sun has set. And at that time, in the midst of darkness, the people around me were my light. And I was able to see the sunset. I knew that if I could make it out of here, that I would walk again. And that if my eyes are open, that I could see clearly. And if that wasn't the case, God be the glory. If I can't walk again, Lord, take me now. But if I'm still here, that means I got plenty of time to walk again. And my mentality was, I know this isn't the end all be all. This is just something that I have to go through and grow through. And I mean, with the support and the just pure love that surrounded me, it gave me that light to see the sun rise again.
Man, those some powerful words coming from a young man, because that could have derailed your business trip, your purpose for coming down there. It could have stopped you from going to school. But I could see in your eyes that you was going to get up. But I
Yes.
wanted to be careful in saying something like that. And not only did you get up after the doctor said that you wouldn't, you got up, you got your degree, you got in the transfer portal. Somehow you get enough strength that they give you the clearance. You go to Boston, you and play on the football team and get another degree. So, as I mentioned, for anyone who wasn't listening earlier, you got a bachelor's degree and two master's degrees. By the time two master degrees with an S on it, by the time you finish your athletic career. I mean, this is phenomenal. Most guys can't even get out with one degree, and they taking cherry picking classes. You go take you taking serious classes. You go to grad school twice. Not once, but twice. And you stayed in the fire department. You didn't have no problems with it. So I just stop and just say, I know Mr. Pearsall getting ready to rile this thing up. And, I know that he was very, very close to you, because every time I turn around, he trying to get me to meet him at Clemson. I said, "Man, you in Baltimore, you try man, I'm 15 minutes from Clemson. Meet me up here. We're going to the game." Man, this is crazy. But he loved him some Richard Jurgen. But Mr. Pearsall, man, what's going on, Mr. Pearsall? What
Hey, you
did
got
you
my man on the
see?
line. You know it. Let's correct this and let's say it right. This is Richard Jurgen III. Richard Jurgen III, aka RY3, aka Jurgie to me. This is my man on the line right now. Let me tell you, he enters the Watkins family out of high school, checking all the boxes, right? All the boxes from a physical perspective. But again, we don't care about that. It's that 4.5 grade point average that we see on the transcript coming into the Watkins family that we were excited about. And having met him, having met his dad, his mom, and his big brother, as he talks about the legacy that he was pushed to accomplish those things in the classroom, I see where it came from. And as I got to know his family and dig deeper into a relationship with him, I am not surprised at the things that he's accomplished. And what you'll hear me say more than anything else, I'm more surprised about the great things that he's going to do. Because although his athletic career didn't go where we anticipated at that time, you know that God always has a plan. And at the end of the day, football is only for a spell. All I do is sit back and wait for the opportunity for greatness. And so some of the guys have 1-year careers in the NFL or in the NBA or in Major League Baseball. Some have 3, some have had 10. But really, it's that life after sport that they begin to make the impact. And they start doing the things that we know that they're going to do, which is create that legacy. And so when you take a look at being Yergi, the first guy to graduate as a student athlete with, as Tyrone said, not only a bachelor's degree, but 2 master's degree. Let's dig a little bit deeper. And again, you and I, we've already talked about it. But for our listeners, talk about what you need to do in terms of sacrificing some things off the field in order to prepare yourself to be dedicated to that educational component to help establish your legacy moving forward through education and the success that you will achieve in the future. What are some of the things that you did to prepare yourself to make those steps forward and to accomplish those things? The only Watkins got to have done so.
Well, it wasn't easy. And to be honest with you, 1 degree is still pending. My second master's from Boston College. Haven't received it in full yet, but it's pending. But what I will say, to your point, Everett and Tyrone, there's 3 things that have to be done. One is you have to be real with yourself. What I want, what I say I want, has to align with what I do. So in order to be something, you have to do something in order to have something. So those are the 3 words: be, do, have. So in order for me to become a Watkins man, the requirements were to be a high academic performer and a high athletic performer, but an overall contributor to society as a Samaritan. And so those are the 3 components that it took to become a Watkins man. In order to elevate and continue to carry the torch, going to college took an enormous amount of focus. And that focus is the do. So be, do, have. So now we're talking about what you have to do in order to have the things that you desire. And for me, I knew going into, my situation, I was going to have to be willing to do more than the average man. Meaning, I went to college, pursuing a business degree. I was going to have to stay up later, not just the required hours that it took to go to study hall, to do homework, but really get out and develop relationships, because that's what business is. You talk about a business trip, you have to assert yourself the first time the right way so that the next time when you present yourself, people still respect the first encounter that they had with you. And so every time that I, step foot out of the door, my mentality was to seek out opportunities to grow in every aspect of my life. Not just, I did it in high school, that's cool, but when I get to college, I'm going to become one-track minded, because that's typically what happens. And the accident in itself came at a point in time where I had already put in the legwork, the hard work. Now it was time to reap the benefits of, the harvest. And to that note, the harvest wasn't the NFL. The harvest was an abundance of relationships and connections that go far beyond that. And so in order to have those things, again, I had to be somebody, I had to do something in order to have that abundance. And so for me, I kind of started to look at life as if my net worth will be dependent upon my network and adding more in value than I ever receive in payment. No one can ever pay me the debt that I've paid to society and all that I do and why I do what I do. If you cut me open and do open heart surgery, I'll still be pumping and I'll still be going because it's something deeper than the eye can see, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, for our listeners, just so you know, he was slated as a starter at Clemson. And if you've been paying attention to Clemson football, you know, in one season alone, they had 3 guys go in the first round off that defensive front that he played with. But he had a life-threatening accident. He broke his neck in a car accident. And when we got down there to see him, as he said, I saw his spirit lift. And I knew that he would accomplish much more than the doctors would say and those around him would say. Even compounding on top of that, as he continued his football career at Boston College, he then comes out and now we have the pandemic. And for an individual that comes out of Boston College with sort of a red flag after having an accident like that, the pro day and all the things that lead up to the draft are the things that a person like him would need. And I'll tell you that today, he is still a talent that could play in the NFL, but accepted other challenges to move forward. And so I'll ask you now, how did the Watkins Award through the Alliance and the Watkins family help you through that journey from the time we met you as a senior in high school, even up until now? Tell us how the Watkins Award has affected you and helped you through all of those different compartments within that journey.
Tell you what, there's a guy by the name of Jamal Rashard Patterson that was a standout at Stanford and a great brother and mentor to me during my time in college. And the one thing I would ask him was, what is life like on the other side? Like, really, what is life like on the other side? And the one thing that he would tell me is, it's greater. You live life with more purpose. Just visiting with him and Tyrone in Atlanta on a consistent basis, just to refresh my mind and let me know that it's bigger than football, like we're here for you just in general, was one of the things that I enjoyed the most throughout my college experience, that it doesn't even do it just that I'm just now, you know, being able to talk about it, but just the peer relationships and the mentorship that you get out of the Watkins. I mean, Everett, you know, every time I look up, and me and you together some point, somehow, I'm just like, man, I want to do what you do for a living. It seems like you have a good time just giving back, you know, and those are the small details that lead to the big results. You know, it's just showing up and being there for somebody in their time of, you know, needing guidance and wanting to receive more than just the cookie cutter, like, oh, you're a part of this alliance and congrats, man, wish you luck on your way. But be there for me on my way. Don't wish me luck, be there, you know, and you all are always there.
Excellent. Now, as I talk about with all the Watkins guys, I'm always more excited for the future. And I take a look at some of the things you've done and some of the things that you're looking at doing as we continue to dialogue about your future. It's always exciting when I talk to the Watkins guys and they tell me some of the things that they're doing now off the field as well as going to do. Tell us about some of the things that you're now doing and some of the plans that you have in store for the future.
Yeah, you know, back in May when the pandemic was at its peak and our socioeconomic climate was chaotic, to say the least, I developed an idea centered around the Richard Yergin Foundation, which encompasses providing academic, technological, and mental health services to those who are disadvantaged in the population here in South Florida and, you know, around the country as well as we expand over the coming years. But The one thing that stood out to me was, I don't look to receive any money or any type of pat on the back for my efforts and my work in the community. But one thing I do strive and want out of life is to leave behind a legacy for my son. And so that's just the start, is building my foundation. The next thing is to put the legwork in and to get out here and let people see me every day. And, the one thing that I would say is, being a motivational speaker, keynote speaker, and an executive coach in life, I've learned so much through the people that I've encountered, from many different aspects. And it's definitely kept me in alignment with my purpose, which is ultimately to serve, at whatever capacity that I need to, whether that be youth, whether that be adults, whether that be folks struggling with addictions and mental health. It's always a blessing to be able to uplift someone else's spirits and make an impact. So, the one thing that I would say personally is I want to live a life to inspire before I expire. And that starts by simple conversations like these, where, I'm putting the vision on full display and watching it manifest over time.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Richard, I know you got more rings than Liberace. You got more degrees than anyone in Watkins history. I love it, man. I love it. I love all the things you're doing. I saw some of your entrepreneurial endeavors when you were in school. So, these things that you're doing now, I already knew you were going to do. And like I always said, it's just a matter of time. You'll check the box on the athletic piece, but when you really get to your mission, you'll be good. Tyrone,
Sir.
Any final thoughts?
Hey, all I can tell you, boy, is Richard has really set the bar. I mean, no one else, like you said, has been able to set that bar. And certainly, this final few moments have been sponsored by Twin Auto Repair. They do oil changes, brakes, and tune-ups, and Lofton Designs over at 954 South Main Street in Conyers. All I can tell you is that everybody is now inspiring to be like Richard Jurgen, as you say, Pearsall the third. I mean, hey, look, it is what it is. Richard Jurgen has made a legacy for that name. And we'll put that third beside it, but he's made a name for it. I certainly appreciate you, Richard. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you so much. And this is Pearsall and Tate signing out with the Watkins Award.
Thanks, Jurgen.
Love you, Tyrone. That's what they say. Call him.
I'm coming with the truck.
I know you are.
Sergeant Yolanda Walton to close us out in prayer. Sergeant?
Yes, I am ready. Father God, please allow all of us to take in this moment to receive the word. We can do all things through Christ that strengthens us. Bless our youth, police officers, as they are divided by theory, but forged by the blood of God. Father God, protect the footsteps of our youth, allow them to forge ahead and become our leaders of tomorrow, and stand today with us in unity. Give them the victory over their situations as they are faced with many challenges and uncertainties. Psalms 32:8 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you should go. I will counsel you, give you my loving eyes on you. God, give us a path to walk in his righteousness, in his likeness. We just need to believe in him and trust that he will guide our footsteps. Father God, protect the police officers from the unknown dangers that lie ahead of them. Police officers' days are filled with uncertainties and unknowns as they make quick and life-changing and life-threatening decisions. Help them to be wise and invoke all their training and experiences before they move or speak. When they have the opportunity to investigate a situation, before they take action and engage, please give them patience, not to rush to judgment or anger. Father God, allow us to stand against the devil schemers. For our struggles is not against flesh and blood, but against the rules, against the authorities, against the power of the dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil that lurks ahead. Therefore, give us the strength to put on the full armor of God, so when the day of evil comes, we will be able to stand strong and achieve the will of God. Father God, lastly, we thank you for the many blessings over our youth and police officers. Help them to stay united. Help them to speak the same language, share the same views, walk in the same path. Father God, I pray loudly that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. No plots, no schemas, no ideologies will divide us. Help us stand in unity to love one another despite our own differences. Father God, I thank you for allowing us the opportunity to engage in this critical conversation. Amen. Glory to God.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And with that note, we'd like to close with a song from our scholar, Micah, video of Amazing Grace.
I wonder if everyone could turn your cameras on as we close, and then we can say bye to each other with smiles. And Tony, if you could share your screen, that'd be great. Oh no, the sound. Tony, can you help us with the sound? I will share the video in the YouTube chat.
Let's have Micah sing it live for us. Micah, you feel up to it?
Is the audio not coming through?
It's not coming through.
Oh
dear.
Let me try this again. How about now?
There we go. There we go. Yes.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieve. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest boy show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chillin' with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Rouse and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Rouse.
Welcome everybody to the Rewind Sports 60. I am your host, Lauren Cox, and we are broadcasting live in our 820 AM studios from the beautiful city of Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the freshest radio show in town. You heard it, and I am here with my esteemed panel. We're going to get right to some sports, some boxing. A lot happened this week. So without further ado, Dan Marver, the marvelous one. How was your week, Dan? You had a blockbuster week last week.
This week was great too. You know, March is the month I love.
Yes.
We got the pairings for the NCAA next Sunday.
Okay.
And we may have a special guest, but we'll see.
Okay. All right.
Right. And in terms of high school, a lot of people don't know this. There's no state tournament, but there's going to be an 8-team tournament at Fenwick and Notre Dame next Friday and Saturday, which are the last 2 days of the basketball season.
Really?
Yeah, Notre Dame, St. Pat's, Gordon Tech, which is now DePaul Prep, and along with Evanston, Mundelein, and Simeon and Young are going to have a tournament.
Gosh.
So they're going to actually sort of have a mini state tournament. So that's something that the kids have to look forward to at last.
So exciting.
And then football finally starts a week from Thursday. So high school season is pretty exciting too. And college basketball, it's very different this year, obviously.
Yes.
They're going to have the entire tournament in Indianapolis.
Okay.
And surrounding arenas like Purdue or what have you.
Right.
But so March is the month I love. So here we are, and bring it on.
That's right. Bring it on. Well, let's bring it on, Jerry Riles, the amazing Jerry Riles. Bring it on. How was your week?
What's up, Lauren? How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. He's the marvelous one, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, brother?
Great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank God. Let me tell you something,
I'm the
man.
greatest of all time.
All
I'm
right.
the greatest of all time. The 50th anniversary. Outstanding. But I'm doing well. I'm doing fantastic. Why do you ask? One reason, Lauren, is the simple fact that we're in the greatest city in the world. I love it. Chicago. Regardless of whatever's going on, regardless of whatever's going down, it's the greatest city in the world. I love it. It's Chicago.
Yes.
And we're in one of the greatest neighborhoods in the greatest city is Chicago. That, of course, Jefferson Park. But the reason I am beside myself and I'm on cloud nine, or soon to be on cloud nine, Lauren, you guys, girls, you guys all understand and know. How many days ago? Maybe 10, 14 days ago? 20-something inches of snow and temperatures are down in the teens and everything. I'm losing my mind. Now the sun is shining and the days are getting longer and the snow is melting, man. I'm feeling good.
And daylight time next Sunday.
I'm telling you, man. I'm watching
Easter's coming up.
Yep, I'm watching Cheryl Scott on ABC7, and she said by the end of March, the greatest March Madness, she said the days are going to be an hour and a half longer. The temperature's going to be in the 60s. I'm ecstatic, Lauren.
Yes,
I'm ecstatic.
I love it.
And it's March Madness. It's basketball, and basketball fever is in the air. And I'm a big fan of the greatest conference of basketball play taking place. That, of course, the Big Ten. Congratulations to the Fighting Illini of Illinois knocking off the Ohio State Buckeyes. And again, congratulations to the Loyola Ramblers for winning the Missouri Valley Conference today. Was it Drake?
Yeah, Drake.
They knocked off Drake. Congratulations to Porter, Moser, and the boys. I didn't realize this, and a lot of people didn't realize this, Lauren, that the Loyola Ramblers, they're ranked 20th in the AP College Top 25 basketball poll. The first time they've been rated, Lauren, since 1985.
What?
The Gene Sullivan Loyola Ramblers, 1985.
Right. They weren't rated in the Final Four year.
Not at all.
Okay, right.
Not at all. That's crazy, but congratulations to them.
They're number what?
They're number 20 in the AP College basketball poll.
Okay.
Yeah, congratulations to them.
I love it.
I love it. I love it.
I'm excited.
Basketball fever. How
Yes.
you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, we got some NBA All-Star action going on.
Yes, we do.
A lot of controversy concerning the NBA All-Star action. So,
Well, let's get right into it. What's the controversy surrounding it?
It's LeBron came out, your favorite player.
Hell yeah.
And he talked about, he didn't think it was a good idea to actually host the NBA All-Star game in Atlanta due to the fact that we are in a worldwide pandemic. And then even the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha, she stated that she did not want people to be throwing parties. Now, okay, how can we prevent throwing parties? That definitely wasn't going to happen. But, it's a big issue in terms of when you think about the fact that you got the best players in the world, all playing in one game. Obviously, if anything happens, there could be a serious problem. And actually today, they did find out that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, both of the Philadelphia 76ers, are unable to play.
Ben Simmons?
Yes.
Mhm.
And Embiid, because they came in contact with their barber who was COVID positive. Another barber. At first it happened with the Super Bowl almost.
With the Kansas City Chiefs.
With Patrick Mahomes. And now here we go again. Two all-star players obviously getting tested, having to be out due to COVID contact tracing.
Yeah.
So, of course, people are saying it's all about the money. They said, forget the players and the health. We're going to make some money.
What did you
try
think?
to recoup some of the money back. I just was totally against it, but it's a business, and business is going to do what business does.
So you were against the All-Star game taking place.
Yeah. Why are they doing that? So they are giving money towards HBCUs because they said they came with the Players Association. They said, if we do have to do this, it has to be some good that comes from it.
Sure.
So 1,500 people are going to be in attendance, and they're going to represent the 23 HBCUs. And ultimately, the NBA is going to be giving $3 million to HBCUs. So that is definitely some positivity that's going to come out of this for sure. Because that money's going to definitely be needed.
And what are your thoughts on them condensing everything into one day? Of course, the All-Star game itself, but the three-point shooting competition, the slam dunk competition, the skill competition, all that stuff taking place down in Atlanta on the same day.
Sure. For me, I just didn't have the energy behind it because I just didn't think it was a good idea. So, I'm not super excited about it.
So the interesting thing about it, Marvelous, is the fact that I don't know if I watched, with the pandemic and COVID and everything, despite, we're turning the corner, so to speak, I'm so comfortable and used to being at home and, channel surfing,
you
especially.
You don't want to leave now.
Really, I don't. But channel surfing on the weekends, watching, and I'm grateful for sports performance and everything that's going on. I commend all the athletes out there, whether they're playing basketball, whether they're playing baseball.
And the teams, the organizations
all
for
of them,
putting all of this
I commend
together.
them. So it's great because we get an opportunity as fans and media types to observe all this and get our minds off of what's, the real world, so to speak. But I'm watching what a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes. Because the NBA All-Star game was here in Chicago a year ago. And was it TNT who showed, if it was either TNT or the NBA channel that showed all the festivities from a year ago here in Chicago. And it was good and refreshing to get an opportunity to relive that time.
Although it might have been a super spreader event.
Exactly right, because I thought about that, Marvelous.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
There was some spreading going on.
I thought about that, and I had an opportunity to go to a couple parties. Shaquille O'Neal's party over at the McCormick Place. Met and talked to the great Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Santita Jackson, who does mornings here at WCPT. It was. Dr. Lori Walton, who's an NBA contributor, had an opportunity to hang out with a lot of those folks just a year ago. And now to see where we are today, I'm with you, Lauren. I kind of agree that they probably should not have had the NBA All-Star game taking place for the simple fact that, all these new variants that are coming up now.
Yeah.
It's an exhibition game. It's unnecessary, really. I mean,
Yeah, but like Lauren said, it's unnecessary because it's an exhibition game. But the point is, it generates a lot of revenue, a lot of revenue, and these leagues are trying to recoup as much money as they possibly can based on the numbers from last year. So Adam Silver had a press conference yesterday to address all these issues, and he said that. And I commend him. He's doing I think he's doing a pretty good job taking the baton from David Stern. May he rest in peace. But Adam Silver is like, hey, you know what? There are still some challenges ahead of us. There are some obstacles that we face, but he thinks and believes that we're trending in the right direction. And so and he has the full support, for the most part, the support of the players and the union. So I think he's doing
He has LeBron support. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah. So let's keep it real before we get into our boxing real quick. And the real deal regarding LeBron. Lauren.
Don't start.
I'm just asking the question. That's all I'm doing.
Don't start.
Should he just stick to basketball?
Oh, please. Yeah. He should just stick to basketball and not build that beautiful school that he built, where our kids are getting the premier education that
should
they
he just
deserve.
stick to just talking to basketball and not bring these social issues to the...
Education is the number one social issue for African Americans. Should be. So would you prefer him not to say a word and we not have that school? No, please. I heard that guy's comment. Ridiculous. Dan.
Well, the thing is that there is, of course, the temptation for athletes, because they have a big podium, so to speak, to use that to talk about things that are important to them, and in this case, important to the country. And so I understand it, although, you can pick your side, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. But, some would say just shut up and dribble, and some will say it's just fine. So, for me, it's still a free country so far. So, he's welcome to do whatever he feels like doing, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Well, I'm as you many people who know me and have been following the show, I'm not a big LeBron James fan, and I say that, and it's based on the brand, the persona of LeBron James, the basketball player. All right, not LeBron James, the man, the person, and that's how I separate it. I'm not a big fan of, because I don't like the fact that, and I understand this generation, but I don't like the fact that they compare or say that he's, the greatest of all time and all that stuff. That's just nonsense to me. That's
That's not his fault, though.
But it's just nonsense. It's not his fault, but it's just
not his
nonsense.
fault.
It's not Mitchell Trubisky's fault that he's the Bears
not
quarterback, but you know.
No,
I mean,
LeBron's not saying that, though.
Stan, he believes they just won a championship in this shortened season, Lauren, and he said,
I'm aware.
"Give me my respect." Man,
that was a difficult
go
season.
Sit down. Go sit down.
It was a difficult season with all that
but
adversity.
Don't tell me to give you your respect when you dancing around the league to set yourself up to win championships. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear that.
In Cleveland, he set himself up to win a championship.
That's why he left. That's why he left. If he's a real champion, you stick and you build it from the ground floor all the way to the top, like the greatest of all time did. That, of course, the great Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
LeBron
he didn't jump
said
ship.
That Michael wasn't the greatest of all time.
Yeah. You remember when he had the big reveal when he went to Miami?
Of course I do. Not one, not two, not three. Hey man, just shut up and dribble.
That was a youthful mistake. Everybody makes
Lauren.
mistakes, Jerry. You said that last week.
Hey Lauren, just shut up and dribble.
Not
one, not two.
Not funny.
But no, as far as the man is concerned, he is commendable. There's no question about it. What he's doing in Akron, what he's doing in Cleveland, what he's doing in the state of Ohio.
What he did for voters.
What he's doing in Hollywood. Yes. LeBron James as a businessman. Yeah. God bless him and keep going. God bless him and keep going. I don't have a problem with what LeBron James, the man, does. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of LeBron James, the basketball guy.
Oh, okay. He's just the best thing ever, but okay.
I'm not going to say all that.
Well, he is.
I'm not going to say all that.
He's one of the best.
Yeah, he's one of the best.
In the league right now.
Yeah,
for sure.
He is one of the
best.
And
for several years he's been.
But here's the deal.
And he's been able to maintain even at his age.
Well, there are a lot of things behind the LeBron James brand.
Exactly. Use all your tools and resources.
Yeah.
It still doesn't negate the fact that he's been able to maintain like he has been at his age. I mean, that's not...
Well, it's a different
Tom
league,
Brady,
too.
yes.
It's a different league, too. Yeah. The great Dr. Lloyd Walton, our basketball contributor, he said that playing in the NBA today is like playing a combination of horse and varsity 21. He said, marvelous. You got to agree.
You mean in terms of the lack of defense or what?
There's no comparison.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just a wide open perimeter game, 3-point shooting.
Mm-hmm.
There's hardly any defense that's being played. Mm-hmm. And again, you talk about errors, and I understand errors, but Lauren, I swear to you, and no offense to you, Marvelous, no offense to me, but I think if we played in the league, we could probably average like 12, 13 points a game.
Yeah,
I think we could.
Please.
I think.
He's still one of the greatest that's doing it amongst the ones
Except you get all your shots blocked. But,
Well, no, we wouldn't, because I'd be shooting from half court. Come on now. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Nobody's going to block like that. But I here's the deal.
Please.
LeBron James is this era's sports leader as far as activism is concerned, because he's on that stage, that platform, and he has taken on a role. Are you bored over there? Are you sleepy?
No.
You okay over there?
Yeah, I'm okay. I got a little bit of a tickle in my throat.
You need a little bit. What in your throat?
A little tickle in my throat.
Oh, you said tickle. Okay, all right. I was getting nervous over there. Hey, take it easy. So, LeBron James is the ambassador. He is the leader regarding the sports icon, the sports figures for this era as far as social issues are concerned.
Yes,
but he's not the first. And we rewind. And this guy, no question about it, Lauren, was the greatest of all time. May he rest in peace. The greatest of all time. That, of course, the great Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
And he received tremendous backlash from white America. Why, Marvelous? Because of the Vietnam War.
The draft. Yeah, he wanted to avoid the draft, go to Canada.
And he said, I'm not going over there to shoot any of them. He go, they didn't do anything to me. Why should I go over there and fight them? Yeah. And white America was in an uproar.
Fortunately, I was in college, so I didn't have to make that decision. They actually had deferments, if you were in college.
Sure.
Sure. So I can relate to that in a way.
Well, I was too young.
Yeah, right.
Thank God. But Muhammad Ali, and for his time, think about this time we're talking about, the late 60s, early 70s, for a black man to be as adamant, as boisterous, and as strong and confident in his position about a social issue that affected everyone. And he stood up to the government and said, I am not going to go because those people didn't do anything to me. They're my brothers. And this was and we're going to get the great Larry Merchant on to talk more about this. But I believe it was during the time of the transition of him changing his name from Cassius Clay to the great Muhammad Ali, transferring over to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, hey, listen, they're my brothers. And I didn't do anything to them. They didn't do anything to me. I'm not going over there. And white America, they were beside themselves. But, of course, the legend as it is, the great Muhammad Ali redeemed himself in America's eyes, and he is definitely known as the greatest of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a friend of the program, and we appreciate him taking some time out on this Sunday afternoon to join us on our TRS60 hotline. He is the legendary Hall of Famer boxing journalist, the great Larry Merchant on our TRS60 hotline. Larry, how are you?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Larry, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well for an old guy.
Aren't we all? Hey, Larry, thank you so very much for spending some time with us on this Sunday to reflect. And the reason we wanted to get you on our show on this March is the fact that 50 years ago, March 8, 1971, it was the first of three. It was the great Muhammad Ali taking on Smoking Joe Frazier in Madison Square Garden, March 8th, 1971, Monday, in a 15-rounder. Can you reflect on that time and that day and what that meant for the world of the sport of boxing and the world as we know it back during that time?
Well, there was such a vast field of dispute, social dispute, and every other kind of dispute, that the Ali Frazier fight, which is a kind of war of the worlds in its time, just became a metaphor for everything that was going on the battlefields, on the streets, and so on. And the fact that Ali was a provocative character, even if he had gone into the army, where he undoubtedly would have been fighting a lot of exhibitions. But he was Ali. He had changed his religion from Baptist to Muslim. He had become a provocative character. A lot of people saw themselves through the lens of Ali, and wherever Ali was, they were, or they didn't want to be. He was an international figure. He transcended oceans and mountain ranges and continents. And it was a explosive time in and out of the ring.
Hey, Larry, it's such a, for our young listeners out there who may not be familiar, and thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts on that, but it was great to see. I saw it, I believe it was on ABC Channel 7 locally here in Chicago, where they played the fight, rebroadcast, the 15-rounder, and just to see that the attraction for this first fight, again, in Madison Square Garden, March 8th, 1971, the amount of dignitaries and all sorts of people who were ringside at that locale, from the great Frank Sinatra to the everyday common man. This fight had built up so much. And again, it was known as the fight of the century, with Smokin' Joe Frazier coming in with a record of 26-0 and 23 knockouts. The great Muhammad Ali 31-0 with 25 knockouts. I mean, this magnitude, I was a mere 9-year-old kid watching this. But the fact that it was labeled the fight of the century, a lot of kids don't know about everything that Muhammad Ali stood for, fought for, and lived for. But the interesting thing about this fight is that, again, Muhammad Ali took his position and his stance as far as not wanting to get in, go fight in a war. And when Muhammad Ali lost this fight, the decision, to Joe Frazier, he, of course, didn't accept the decision. And he said that, what? Joe Smokin' Joe Frazier was the white man's champ. And that lit fuel under the camp of Smokin' Joe Frazier. Can you talk about that?
Well, through no fault of Joe Frazier's, but maybe through the fault of Muhammad Ali, people chose up sides. You couldn't not be aware of that fight, just on a level that there has never been a fight between two undefeated heavyweight champions before or since. So that alone magnified everything beyond magnification. And yes, many celebrities were there. I wrote that every Eskimo in every igloo and every islander on every island was tuned to that fight. It was cosmic. There's no way of overstating how big an event that galvanized virtually the whole world. Largely, yes, because Ali, being a provocative social character, it was highly unusual to ever see a star athlete or star performer of any kind, for that matter, who was willing to risk everything by taking sides, by being for this or against that, by taking on the government, and by turning himself an athlete into a supreme showman who you'd have to be clamping your jaw and not to laugh around Ali. So there were sides being drawn up all over the globe. Frazier had won the 1964 heavyweight gold medal at the Olympics in Tokyo. 4 years before that, Ali had won the gold medal in the light heavyweight division in Rome. And Ali used it as a launching pad for an amazing career. And maybe the first and only American athlete who became an international superstar and figure and metaphor and anything else you want to ascribe to him.
Hey, Larry, this is Dan in the studio here. My recollection is that particular fight was shown on closed circuit in movie theaters. They sold about 2.5 million tickets. I've looked it up, and And so it was like in London, they said that half the country was watching it. So it was definitely gained a lot of attention in terms of, the way things, there was no HBO then, obviously. It wasn't on ABC. So people had to go to the movie theater to watch the fight.
And that was before pay-per-view. But it generated a lot of bucks.
Larry, Lauren Cox here. So before you came on, we were talking a bit about LeBron James being the largest sports figure that is a social activist. But of course, before LeBron was Muhammad Ali. Can you talk a bit about Muhammad Ali and his social activism?
Well, I just think it came upon gradually. He was famous coming out of the 1960 Olympics. It gave him a great platform, and he performed on that platform. And he didn't always form like an athlete or a fighter. If he sat down in the studio with a famous nighttime television host, he made people laugh. He was funny. He was bold. And gradually it took on another life. A lot of the old establishment boxing people couldn't connect with him. They didn't like the way he fought. There had never been a big, fast heavyweight champion like Ali. Athletes were better off being quiet and forceful than running their mouths, and it confused a lot of people. And then he had his ring antics. So he was something that nobody had ever really seen before, and so a lot of pros and cons gathered around his presence, and everybody had an opinion about Ali, whether you were pro-war or pro whatever the cause that was going. And he was beautiful, he was smart, and to a lot of people he made our hearts run, and to a lot of other people he gave them heart attacks.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the one thing I want to ask you on with the great Larry Merchant, legendary Hall of Fame boxing journalist, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60 on our TRS60 hotline. Before we let you go, and we appreciate your time, Larry, that's what I want to ask you. So as a young African-American boy growing up on the South Side in the greatest city in the world, that of course Chicago, and watching this iconic figure in Muhammad Ali, first of all, he was rhyming. He was predicting, hey, the ugly man's going to go down in 6. I'm going to beat his teeth in, and he's going down in 6, whatever the case may be. Muhammad Ali, I can't rhyme the way he does. That's why he's the greatest. But he would predict the rounds that he was going to knock his opponent out. He would talk all this smack pregame, going off talking. He was, again, boisterous and animated, larger-than-life figure. He would then get in the ring, and his antics, he would do whatever. He'd do the shuffling of the feet, which was fantastic. He would do the rope-a-dope. He'd do all this stuff. And then, of course, he would win the fight. And then he'd have enough gall to have his corner, Angelo Dundee, or whoever the case may be, give him his afro comb, and he'd comb his hair in the corner while they're making the announcement that he's the winner. And for a young kid watching this Superman, black man, do all of this stuff, I mean, we loved him. And of course, he lived in Chicago, had a home here in Chicago. But for me, as a young black kid, I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. I love it. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's the 70s, right? But as a white man in the white America, how was this black man being boisterous, being dominant and being confident perceived in the white community from your perspective back then?
Well, it depends on whether you were a country boy or a city boy, whether you were a liberal or a conservative, whether you expected your athletes to be tall and quiet, or whether you wanted them to put on a show or not. Babe Ruth in his day was a great American athlete and personality and character, but it didn't cross the color lines. It didn't get overtly political. I mean, calling out the government probably seemed to native peoples around the world as the craziest thing they ever saw an athlete do, because it could get you killed. But he came from America and he could get away with it. And I was with him in Africa, and people adored him, worshipped him. He was, the new Messiah for a lot of people, but it was a threat to a lot of other people.
Larry, this is Dan here in the studio. I think the one guy in the media, in the mainstream media, that really helped promote him was Howard Cosell, don't you think?
Well, I think Howard Cosell was a smart guy, and he picked up on the fact that if you pinched Ali in the right place, if you tossed him a slow one over the middle, he was going to make you look good. And because he was so controversial, there were an inestimable number of subjects upon which he could wax poetic or opinionated and tell stories. I would also suggest that the coming of television was a new means of communication that allowed someone like Ali to flourish. That he would be there on the air after a fight, telling you what he thought and not hiding much, and so on. And he can make you laugh. So Ali became a spokesman for his time. He went through some travails, most of them outside the ring, but he was as superstar as a superstar gets.
Larry, and speaking of superstars, we're here with the legendary Hall of Fame boxing journalist Larry Merchant. We were told that you recently celebrated a birthday, February 11th. If you want to tell how old you made, that's totally up to you. But we want to hear how you celebrated this pretty milestone birthday on February 11th. And happy belated birthday from the Rewind Sports 60.
There you go.
Well, thank you. There's a sign up here in my library. It says, wait, how old are you? And then there's a sign next to it that says 90, so it must be me.
Hey!
And I have a daughter and a couple of grandsons who live nearby me, and I live in Santa Monica, California.
Nice.
And we celebrated together, and and onward and maybe even upward.
Hey.
Attaboy.
Love it. Love it.
Larry, thank you so very much for taking some time, and happy belated birthday to you. We really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure and an honor to get an opportunity to chat with you and reminisce about the good old days when boxing was really boxing, when they went 15 rounds and they just slugged it out.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a unanimous decision. I mean, there was some controversy in that, too, that Frazier won by unanimous decision.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Ollie fought him 2 times after the time at Madison Square Garden.
Beat him.
And he beat him in one-sided fights in both of those fights. So if you got your rocks off by betting on Frazier the first time, you probably blew it all the next couple of times.
He certainly did, and that's why he was definitely the greatest of all time. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet the great Muhammad Ali. May he rest in peace, but quite some memories for sure. Larry, you're a champ in your own right as well. Congratulations again on the birthday celebration, and of course the Hall of Fame boxing analyst taking some time to join us on the Rewind Sports 60. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir. Enjoy the weekend. We'll be talking with you down the road, my good friend.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's always nice to know that there are people who still care.
We care, and we respect you and love you and appreciate all you've done for the sport of boxing. Thank you, sir. Take care of yourself.
All right. Good evening.
The great
Awesome,
Larry
man.
Merchant. Yeah, he's
90
always
years
good.
young.
Wow, that's fantastic. God bless him.
And he got to go out with his family on his birthday. That was the thing.
And he lives in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
There you go. Good catch, Lauren.
How did he do that?
Good catch. Well, you know what? There's another thing, social issues. We talk sports here, but it's real sports, real talk, just plain real here at the Rewind Sports 60. And we're on every Sunday, WCPT 8:20 a.m. From 6 to 7 p.m. And we want to make sure that everyone sets it on their car radio dial 8:20 a.m. You can get us www.wcpt820.com. You can certainly check us out there. But the one thing we do want to touch on, we were hoping for an opportunity to talk with the great Congressman Danny K. Davis out of Chicago. And one reason we wanted to talk with him is the fact that they're doing some great things, some incredible things over at the United Center starting on Tuesday. And it's for those people, particularly on the west and south side of the city, to get vaccinated. And the Congressman Danny Davis was going to join us to talk a little bit about that. But we want to get the message out and get the word out to all of you who are listening. It's very important that you get vaccinated. We're around the corner as far as this virus is concerned, and there are new variants that are hitting. It seemed like every week. There was the UK variant, and then there's the African variant, and now there's the Brazilian variant, and they just keep coming from left and right. But the important thing is to, in my opinion, to protect yourself and to protect your loved ones and protect, even the strangers, your neighbors, because we're all in this together. And Lauren and I talked about it at the start of the show regarding the NBA All-Star game that's taking place down in Atlanta. And many people felt that, maybe we should bypass it because of the pandemic. But there are others that say, the show must go on. And at the end of the day, business is business. And it's a matter of, generating whatever revenue you can and recouping whatever monies that were lost in 2020 for your respective businesses. But we wanted to talk with the great Congressman Danny Davis about the vaccinations that's being set up and ready to open up on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week for persons who are eligible to get the vaccinations, Dan Marver.
Yeah, over 65, 1B. So hopefully there'll be even more folks that you get. I know a lot of people that are not 1B that have gotten it, So in some cases it's because they get lucky because there's extra vaccine, and in other cases they're essential workers. So give it a shot. See if you can get in there and get it, because it doesn't hurt. Because I got it and I know, and so go for it.
Lauren?
Jerry, did you get your shot? We'll take that as a no. No, but so both of my parents got the shot, and obviously they're going to be vaccinated. And it's just, I don't know, when your parents do it, you just feel like I need to do it too. No, I haven't done it yet. But,
you haven't?
But I'm saying because my parents did it, it's like I feel like I need to do it, like for sure.
Where'd they go?
South Suburban.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you still have to wear a mask because you could be asymptomatic and give it to people that haven't gotten the shot. So you still have to be careful.
Right. For sure.
So here's the deal. There are some people out there. There are some people who are eligible to get the vaccination. You're talking about 65 years of age or over, pre-existing conditions. But there are some people who that fit the criteria in those categories to say, you know what, I don't want to do it. One, obviously, is the Tuskegee Experiment.
Sure.
And, the scary thing about that is the fact that, that started where in the 40s or 40s, 50s, somewhere around that time, but it went all the way up until, the early 70s. All right. And so there are a lot of African Americans during that time that are very skeptical. And it's understandable. But there are a lot of African Americans. I can't speak much for the Latino community because I'm not, that well connected to it. But as far as the black community is concerned, there are many, and congratulations and commend your parents for stepping up and getting the vaccination. But there are a lot of elderly African American people living in this city, whether it's the south side and the west side, to say, you know what, I just don't want to do it. One, because of this Tuskegee Experiment, but two, and I don't think about this because I don't live it, but prior to the pandemic, whatever ailments they have, whether it's diabetes or, hypertension or whatever the case may be, they're on medication. They're getting, stuck, probed, whatever, in general. And a lot of them, I think, look at it as such, it's just another opportunity to get stuck, or that, and they're going through, it's stressful, and it's fatigue. And so I think a lot of African Americans are saying, you know what, I don't want to get another shot. I don't want to have to go through standing in line again. And that may be more of a detriment than anything else.
Yeah, I know.
Have you experienced that?
Somewhat. My aunt was saying that, again, the distrust of the government, and she was just like, no, I don't trust them. And what people don't understand is that, being African American, coming from a socioeconomic background that's not as affluent or as other people's, you feel like, you're going to be, again, marginalized. And, people have, they're experimenting on them. They don't know what they're going to be doing. It's all about money. It's a lot of distrust there. And that's what needs to change in order for a lot of people in our community to become vaccinated. They're going to have to do it more grassroots in terms of getting in these communities, having one-on-one conversations, because it's a lot of people that feel like that. And they're just not going to get it.
I've seen on television they're trying to promote the fact that getting the disease is going to be worse than getting the shot. I don't know if you've seen those ads.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, right.
Can you describe it a little bit more for us? Paint a picture?
It's Illinois. I mean, it's a respected member of the Illinois health team and a commercial saying that, that what I just said, that if you get sick, it's going to be a lot worse than getting the shot. So it's like Illinois, there's a website too.
Sure.
That you can link to. But what they're trying to do, obviously, is assure people that it's relatively safe and it's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, the thing that's disturbing to me, and thanks for sharing that, Marvelous, the thing that's disturbing to me is the irresponsible people, and they're talking about spring break. Again, we talk about the All-Star break down in Atlanta, and, the restrictions as far as, no parties going on. And again, a year ago, here in Chicago, we hosted the event, and it was cold as hell outside. It was cold as hell outside, but there were a lot of parties still going on. Sure. People were everywhere. Again, I was at McCormick Place, and the place was packed.
Yeah. That's probably the last thing that happened there.
Pretty much.
But the things that disturbing to me, are the people who, in my opinion, who are being irresponsible and somewhat reckless, wanting to go out and party and hang out and still believing after more than 500,000 people who have died from this, they still don't believe it, and they're careless and say, hey, it can't happen to me. And I just think that is, and especially what's going on in the state of Texas, it's just irresponsible. And regardless if you believe in science or not, just follow the science. Follow the science. We're halfway around the turn, as the great late Phil Georgieff used to say. You remember, here they come spinning around the turn. I think we're spinning around the turn as far as getting past this virus, and all people need to do is just stay the course. Again, in my opinion, stay the course for another month or two.
A little longer, people.
Right, that's it. They just need to stay the course. But because this is something you'll play with.
Jerry, they're itching. Everybody on Facebook is on vacation, and everybody they itching. They want to go somewhere.
Listen, I wanted to. I love Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii, but I said, hey, I'm not going to Hawaii. I wanted to. I swear to you, I want to go to North Carolina. I want to play some golf. I want to go to Arizona. I want to play some golf. I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm not doing it.
Play golf here in a month.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. But I understand that. But it
they said forget it, and a lot of we would have to address the mental. It's some mental issues. We've got to address the mental implications and issues that this pandemic is having on people. So it's good for some people's health that they get away, because they are losing it. We all are losing it. I mean, this is just too much. I
get it. But again, it's like the Marvelous just shared, as far as that commercial is concerned. You have to weigh the odds, so to speak, in my opinion, right? I think you have to determine, because this virus, you get it. My priest at the church, he passed away within 10 days. Within 10 days. It's not a joke. There's just been a case that came out that a Cleveland Browns, I think a wide receiver, where his 9-month-old,
child,
9 months, has the virus.
Covered in blood.
I mean, there are over 500,000 people who have succumbed to this virus. It's not a joke.
I mean, it's terrible. I mean, the thing is, look at the schools. I mean, can you imagine if you hadn't been able to go to school your 3rd and 4th grade year as a kid or something? I mean, I can't even imagine that. That's basically what's happened.
Right. And it's interesting. You talk about school. My daughters are at the University of Illinois down in Champaign. My oldest daughter graduates this May. And I'm talking to them wow, you're at school, you're graduating, all this stuff. These are memories. And my daughter reminded me, she's like, yeah, memories of going to school during COVID.
Yeah.
And it hit me. Yeah, she hit me. I was like,
Yikes.
That's what I said. I was like, wow, because they can't do in person. They can't go out to the bars or whatever. They can't do the normal things that you would do on a college campus. Well, they can't. Well, they're not supposed to. But there are people who are saying, "Yeah, we're going to the bars," and then they're lying about, "Oh, I tested negative." That's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on down there. But the point of the matter is, they're restricted because of this virus. And I didn't think about it, because I'm just thinking, hey, you're away at school, you're in college, enjoy your college years, because they're going to be with you forever. And my daughter's reminded me, during COVID, So, I mean, we're all in this together. At the end of the day, we're all in this together. And in order, in my opinion, for us to get out of this, we have to work collectively. And I just think it's irresponsible for people in general. Forget about your political affiliation. Forget about your ethnic makeup, your economic makeup. It's about caring for yourself, caring for your family, and caring for your neighbor. And if they tell me not to, Lauren, I know for sure. I guarantee you this. If I'm at guarantee rate right on 35th Street, I guarantee you if I cross that fence and run down the embankment there, and I try to cross the Dan Ryan Expressway, or if I try to cross the Kennedy, or the Edens, or the Eisenhower, or the Stevenson, if I try to walk across that, I think chances are the risk of me getting hit by a car It's pretty great. The point is, be safe, be responsible, and just follow the directions until we get through this thing.
What's
Don't just
the big
take it
deal
upon
about
yourself.
wearing masks and, when you go to Walgreens? I mean, come on.
And then you can't tell me what to do. Nobody's trying to tell you what to do. We're trying to protect you. We're trying to protect ourselves. So people, public service announcement.
Right. I mean, I'm afraid that people that are vaccinated are going to not want to wear masks now. That's going to be a risk because I'm fine. I mean, I
Right.
can't get it.
Right.
But that's.
Well, that's the thing. That's the other misconception is people think, okay, I got the vaccination. I'm invincible now. I can do everything that I normally, No. Take one step at a time.
Right.
Take one step at a time. That's it.
Yeah.
Be smart.
Yeah.
You got it. United Center, there's a scoreboard update. The Blackhawks lost to Tampa 6-3.
Yeah, they were winning 3-0 going into the third, wasn't it?
They had 6-3. And I was going to mention that maybe we'll talk about it next week. We'll see what happens with our old friend Dave Leto at DePaul. He had another bad season.
You know what? Just like Mitchell Trubisky, it's the second time I said Mitchell Trubisky on this show today, but it's not Dave Leto's fault that he has the job because he never should have been. I didn't think he should have.
No, but now
I didn't think he should have been hired the first time.
Now there's a new AD, Dwayne Peavy, so
and he's
that
like,
changes the picture.
Yeah, he's like, I don't like being last.
Yeah, right.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
That's because he's from Kentucky.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave Leto, thank you.
Yeah.
Paycheck is good, I'm sure. The record stinks. The program stinks.
Yeah.
It all stinks. It's time for a new sheriff to come into town. Lauren?
Yeah.
You got to do it.
When they rehired him, they had their chance. They had a lot of good candidates out there. Hurley was out there, and Drew and one of the Drews was out there. So they just blew it.
Yeah, I never understood the second time. I go, the guy didn't have success the first time. Why you bring him back a second time? That's ridiculous. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for spending your time. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. Closing thoughts before we go, Lauren?
Check out the NBA All-Star Game tonight, people.
And tune in next week. We'll be revealing the brackets along with Greg Guffel for the NCAA tournament. And we may have a special guest here. We're negotiating with a Hall of Fame basketball coach.
Come on.
Are we negotiating?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To bring him in and talk about the brackets.
We're negotiating.
Who has a brother as a coach in the college.
Thank
too.
you to the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Thank you to the lovely, talented, outstanding Lauren Cox, and definitely the fantastic, greatest producer in sports talk radio here in Chicago, Devin Tingle. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Relax, reset, rejuvenate. Go to our link right now to restart your life. TheRewindSports60.com. What are you waiting for? Hope to see you soon. The Rewind Sports 60.